This is a follow-up to last week's video. If you're trying to lose weight and you struggle with stress eating, just know that those two things, they butt heads. If you haven't somehow acknowledged that, you're not gonna lose weight, because stress eating for so many of us can be such a potent support system, for lack of a better word. Like, it's just something we depend on, right? But for today, I want to address you if, number one, you know you struggle with stress eating, and number two, you know what weight loss will mean for that stress eating, and you still want to continue. This video is for you. You've got three options. I'm gonna tell you all three ways, and then I'm gonna dig into the first one for this video, and then in the next two videos, I'll dig into the next two. If you are wanting to lose weight and you struggle with stress eating, you've got three options. Number one, put boundaries around the stress eating somehow. Notice I didn't say just stop stress eating, but put boundaries around the stress eating is the first option. Number two, change your coping mechanism. Number three, change the stress. For today, we're just talking about putting boundaries around the stress eating. And you know, the cool thing about this process, there's not one way to do it. You might be thinking that I'm gonna tell you, go get diet food and eat that instead. Stress eat water or something like that, but there's a million and one ways you can approach it. Just to simplify, I'm gonna give you three different examples, all varying in degree of, I don't wanna say difficulty necessarily, because it really just has to do with you and what jives with you. For one person, one option might be awesome. For another person, that option might just be horrible, but the difficult option for that first person is better. First example, modify the food that you're eating. I know for me, I love nachos. I love chips and salsa. I love chips and guacamole. Something about crunchy, salty, I love it. It's awesome. For me, I know that a good replacement, if I'm like, okay, I can't just eat nachos day in and day out, a good substitution for that would be homemade air-popped popcorn with some kind of dry seasoning on it. I know I'm gonna get a big old bowl of popcorn, whereas a big old bowl of popcorn is gonna be about the equivalent of like a much smaller bowl of nachos as far as caloric intake goes. So that would be an example of modifying. How did I come to that substitution? The characteristics of what it is that I know I used to stress eat. So chips are crunchy. It's that crunch that I just absolutely love. Well, popcorn is crunchy as well. So if someone tried to say like, oh, you like nachos? Here, try this piece of chocolate cake instead. I would enjoy chocolate cake, of course, but it doesn't scratch the same itch, you know? So that's the first option as far as putting boundaries around what it is you're eating. Is just modify it slightly, but try to get something that still scratches the itch that you're looking for. Another example of putting boundaries around the food you're stress eating is maybe you still eat the food that you really, really want, but you only tell yourself, I'm only gonna eat this one night a week. Oh, and I'm only gonna have one serving. You're still getting the food that makes you feel like you're relaxing, but you're just narrowing the boundaries, right? And then the third and final example of how you could put boundaries around the stress eating is quite simply giving yourself a calorie target. Okay, I can only have this many calories in a day. If that's the case, then let's say you give yourself a calorie target of, I'm just throwing this up, 1,800 calories. Guess what? If you're hitting a calorie target, you can eat as many nachos as you want. They just have to fit within that target. So you can see how those are three very distinct ways that you could put boundaries around your stress eating without necessarily just saying, stop stress eating. Next time, we will talk about changing how you cope with stress. If you have any ideas for yourself about ways that you've modified food for you or somehow put boundaries around stress eating, I'd love to hear those in the comments, just because the more ideas that we can crowdsource here, the better off it is for all of us.